Welcome to our lovely future humans, our 5D collective. To those who are new, I'm going to try to organize, and that's for my regulars. Before we begin, we're going to look at why somatic empathy heals, why AI doesn't replace a good therapist, why journal prompts and mindset practices work for some people, study self image, nervous system regulation, ventral energy. We talked about it in a couple of lives and more, and why it doesn't work for others. And here's our unsteady, and I call 3D, 4D, spiritual bypassing, somatic bypassing, a lot of different ways, but essentially the body remembers what the mind forgets, and those who disregard good therapy didn't get self-regulation skills. So I'm also going to bring in, as a mystic, those who have been waiting, Archangel Michael. He chimed in a couple days ago, or it was yesterday. He keeps on wanting me to bring this information, so bear with me. I'm giving you the order so you can stick around for however many of the different things I want to look at. And I have not started to put timestamps. I don't know if I will, but I know some of you appreciate that. To be continued. Meantime, subscribe to Substack, for we will have empowering discussions, conversations, writing. So there's a free subscription-based model, and then we're going to have a paid tier model with journal prompts and mindset practices for those of you who do know why it makes a difference. And so it's in your day-to-day habit that you grow resilience, the good kind. Also, check out PayHip for the uncertainty to steadiness bundles. Spread the word to those who you do know enjoy adding to that, which is their own personal growth toolkit for the spiritual growth. FYI, you don't reprogram your subconscious. You don't actually do any of what I have seen 4D Collective do, as they're not going to continue growing. They actively are validating. And so I call it Peter Pan with the Lost Boys who find a Wendy or more. And they're all epistemically lazy. They validate each other's charges, so they don't discern and identify their own affective realism, their very strong emotions, or their child parts. And so they really don't understand why I know my teenager as she comes up. I've learned about it. I'm working with it. But here's the other part. Some of us come into the world with a state, a self, a whole self. So you don't have a 0, 1, 3 to 7, your child parts, or what words you use that are talking over each other. There's no inner conflict. It's actually a very beautiful collaborative space. And here's what happens when you're epistemically curious and diligent and disciplined and just you love learning. I spot neuroscientists that are missing pieces of information from neurobiologists and psychotherapists. And so I get to be the one who tells you, please don't believe in me, but I'm the middle man, woman, the middle human, how you prefer. I'm the in-between of I get to learn, and I love spiritual and science. And so yes, spirituality and wellness, they come together. And those who think we're charlatans, I love to say loser, because really, if they're epistemically curious, disciplined, and diligent the same way I am, and that means not like me, but they read more, they take even more course, all of it, they're gonna want to chit chat with me. I have no shadow of doubt, because when you understand how the adolescent SC, this is what happens. I'm sorry, let me pause myself. I noticed it from our live from yesterday, by the way, my lovely viewers and listeners. Oh, the listeners, I'll get that on Spotify and or the other podcasts. It's really one platform as soon as I'm done with this one. So the lives, we're going to keep having them. In fact, actually, tomorrow there's a Italian one, and it's with a voice coach. We had a little short intro today, but tomorrow we're going to ask questions. It's only in Italian, but you can come and join us if you want. And depending where you're at, it'll be at different times. I'll post something in YouTube and maybe Substack. Okay, anyways, okay, let's go with, I forgot what number 1 was. That's why I don't organize it, but I have notes. So somatic empathy, why does it heal? Well, I still have trouble embodying the word somatics, but I do know there's an entire keep of amazing people like Peter Levine and Pat Ogden, Janina Fisher, Bethany Brand, Ruth Lanius, Dr. Daniel Siegel. There's a bunch of people that know Pat Ogden. Yeah, I mentioned her. Okay, so basically people heal Dr. Wong, thank you. This is one of my courses with Dr. Wong. It's the Core Skills Trauma Certificate Program on Somatopia. And my teacher, Sue Martin, she's amazing. I love all of those experts. They all prove God's perfection. Don't worry, none of them have any evil inside of them. It's only dysregulation. So this is very nice because the future humans will know why our 3D, 4D brothers and sisters did what they did. You see, the animosity that comes from the self-righteous energy, the only energy that a 3-year-old will have had in their own household and or 4 or 5, I don't know. That's not what we, those who know what experts know. Expertise breeds humility. When you meet intellectually ignorant people, you will see their arrogance and their buffoonery. So with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah, I laugh because if you're personally responsible, then you become funny and then I'll know you're powerful. If on the other hand, you are like a rooster with a show going on, I'm just like, okay, let me breathe. I forget to breathe sometimes. So people heal when they experience somatic empathy. That means when they feel understood just as they are, and that means they feel felt. And so people who don't believe in the state of self and the feeling felt, they're the same ones that it doesn't matter how you explain it to them, the nervous system, they won't be doing right by themselves, by their self. Okay, so why do journal prompts and mindset practices work for some people? And so if in the middle of the night you wake up in the middle of the night, na na na, like the Billy Joel song, actually if you hear it, it's like I lost that something that I never chose to lose, and he's looking through a river and he's tired of walking, and here's where the one solution to fatigue and struggle, aka self-regulation, anchored ventral energy. Every human being, your human makeup is made for it, so is mine. However, if you didn't get it in your first year of life, which people poo-poo, you will want to make sure to go to Dr. Daniel Fox, watch his video. There's a series, a playlist where he explains nervous system predictability. It's going to predict what is its comfort zone. Comfort zone doesn't mean healthy. Intensity is not love. Regulating intensity, it's really you're regulating depth and passion. You're not basing the external, that adrenaline. Yeah, so some people don't actually embody bliss yet. And when they're talking about it, you can tell. But the ones who do, neuroscientists included, you're going to be like, wow, I want the flow state. Then there's the ones who say it's not possible. So those are the people who the journal prompts and mindset practices, they just weaken their window tolerance because they practice validating their effective realism, their very strong feelings. I want to say, well, it's right, not feels right. Then they also validate their story. My spiritual ones are right. My scientists are right. My perfect package is right. And as they continue doing that, you think, wow, there's a lot of ways for the masculine to continue to expand. Only one feminine. It's not the woman. So embodied, empowered, feminine, divine, empowered, divine, masculine. We're not divinity, don't worry. The ones who don't understand where we have fun with words, they're really rigid and or chaotic. They are the reason why the world's still in shambles. In fact, they think that we need chaos in order to grow. So when someone is, as Dr. Daniel Fox presented, only going to be familiar with the push-pull, and that's our black and white thinkers, and that's the pseudo-life people. And so they will give you their interpretation. And that's where also neuroscientists who think everyone have a battle in the head. As I heard a recent explanation, I'm giving you my interpretation. You give me yours. You know where it comes from? Life's purpose. How you feel about life. Let's see. If you are one of the individuals who understands the word subjective experience, but not just that. Hold on for it. Where's my notes? Self-organization, information processing, consciousness. And if those are still not clear, let me give you another one. Perception. And if you want to talk to me about objective truths, I know Neil deGrasse, he explains them. Personal, political, objective. It's a handful of facts, and therefore I will return to the do you know about perception and the body and the mind. Because no matter where you twist and turn, the ones who want to play their game, there's some of those out there who just like to challenge each other, the colleagues. which I enjoy learning from. I just wish they'd have better manners so that we can all learn. Instead, they have their usual manners. Some people, not all. In fact, actually, the ones who I love the most are the ones who get along with all their colleagues because they respect all their colleagues. As they know, they all bring something to us, the human beings. So when someone goes against, so example, a theologian decided to write a paper about Reiki and make it into devil's energy and evil energy, that's a closed-minded human being, but they got their proof. Just it's qualitative analysis at best, and really it shows me that you don't know that all of it is the same cloth, and that makes sense. The left doesn't like when A, B, C, D, E, F, G touch each other, and it becomes, in fact, a delusional idiot and doesn't stay a fascinated child. The right mind is a judgmental asshole. I'm mastering her. And no, I'm not an indulgent parent. I ain't my parent. I have a parent, and that's why it's like, nope, I'm Maria. Who are you? That's who's going to make you pay hip. Check out the bundles, journal prompts, mindset practices, because you're the ones who grow. Then we also know what douchebags look like. The brain is running a model of its body. Thank you, Lisa Feldman Barrett. And the brain means that you will be thinking, but you will have felt first. So perception, sensations, interoception. Here's another brilliant human being who's a good therapist. Why your CPTSD is not getting better. Disturbances in self-organization. That means that there's challenges with relationships, so there's not relational safety. Emotions and affect, there's not a good relationship with the sense of self. And so people who have emotional vulnerability and are insecure and they don't know neuroception, the biology of trauma podcast with Dr. Amy Apigan. As she points out, neuroception is what determines our response to everything in any moment of our life. It is not based on reality. It is based on one's perception. It is not willpower or motivation. It's the body's security system consistently asking one question: am I safe right now or am I in danger? And so, furthermore, one more quote, and then we're going to continue with our conversation so that we can continue. But again, the words are not as important as what I'm trying to share with you. Your nervous system, like I am, my perception is different than those who continuously make it very clear that in their mind they had inner conflict. I don't have inner conflict. I have Maria. And so all of my child parts, because I like the child parts, because like my teacher Sue Martin explained, they're like popsicles, and when they come up, and I know myself, so I remember my way of feeling of me. Obviously 0 to 3 is implicit, but I have stories from my mom, so and I also have stories from my sister, so it's like really clear percent patterns and temperament. You work with it. That's the whole beauty of being an integrated bilaterally vertically overall. So the PDP framework, when I took it, because that's where Dr. Dan with his PDP framework has given the good mindful therapists, the ones who will be good because they're healthy and whole and can anchor and ventral energy, a way to support people to their journey once they're done with good therapy. With that being said, their subcortical areas, and I bring in a lot of different information because I have it and I want to share it. So don't take my word for it. You can write notes down. I might fuck it up and forget it, but the point is, this is epistemically curious. This is discipline and diligence. You get to be disciplined yourself. Have fun with it. If you are a empowered self-leader, you're not going to be like, I don't like that. I'm still working with some of the words that get me going too. I just saw someone wanting to pretend that, what was it? Well, it's not important. So, okay, let's get back to what I was talking about, more important than that. Sensations, perspective, agency. So when you have your anger, you handle it well, your sadness, okay, and your fear. Certainty, and here's belonging or bonding, and the anger is about self-agency. So there are people who think we can't be self-agents. That means they have yet to achieve their self-agency, is how I'm going to bring it to you. Because that's how a 3-year-old will be like, excuse me, are you choosing to talk for me because you have a lot of knowledge? I understand your knowledge, but by the way, I have knowledge myself. Okay, so that's why it's fun. As Neil deGrasse points out, we can all know enough about something to think we're right, but not enough to know we're wrong. I'm going to say we also can know enough about something thinking we know all the pieces, but maybe you don't, because there's so many colleagues out there that you may not have heard all of the explanations because everyone's busy with their own bringing it to you. Okay, so when I hear neuroscientists, the flow state, check, we all can have it. Novelty is something that when you have a whole state of self, a whole you, you're not motivated by the adrenaline stuff or the dopamine. Actually, it's not anywhere near. You're not motivated by that which is new. Novelty in this way. I'm a marketer as well. So I remember the studies that show people want to engage with new. And with Dr. Daniel Siegel's explanation of the adolescent essence, essential spark, social engagement, novelty, creative expression, I understand how our embodied brain gets intrigued. With the PDP framework, you're motivated however it is you are. Okay, so let me pause again as I want to close out circle 1, which would be where steady self-image, nervous system, self-regulation skills, anchoring in ventral vagal state. That's what I'm talking, or who I'm talking to. In those equations, journal prompts, mindset practices work. If you wake up at 2 a.m., you're feeling lost, it won't be fatigue, struggle, and despair. And that's good news. When you have people, though, who instead don't have any of this, and they say that we are bypassers because we're quantumists, you have a bullshitter in front of you. Put your hand on your heart. And Father, Son, Holy Spirit, thank you, God, for teaching me not to play know-it-all and trying to make sure I continue doing what I do best. You be you and I be me, and let's have good times. Smart people do that. Stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable. So the window tolerance expands. Just found out that it's been explained wrong. I need to finish that workshop. So that's like with the alpha male thing, that was used wrong too. So, you know, people will end up using that which have been created by people in ways that they see applicable. And so it's not that it's wrong, but it's not what the window of tolerance entails. So basically, I will leave that to, you know how when you get like really scared, panic attacks, okay? Okay, so that, you got a story, I'm gonna die. Or you got like something, like a really low feeling, like I'm gonna die. So the story and the feeling, that's chemistry. There's a lot of things can have a role with it, but you are able to do activation, ventral vagal state, remind yourself to just breathe. And that a 0-1-year-old is actually all implicit memory. So your mind's not against you. See what I'm saying? And then you grow in your window of tolerance to want to welcome. Doesn't mean that you enjoy them. You just don't yell at Nutshell Therapy Lady on YouTube saying we have to put up with it. Because it's like, okay, no, that's not what she's saying. It's your experiences today will influence the molecular composition of your body for the next 2 to 3 months of your life. Steve Cole, PhD, and he's a researcher, professor, and human genome expert. Okay, so when you meet epistemically lazy people who are ego defensive and insecure and ways of being reactive to conversations with data, I get the opposite. So if someone becomes argumentative, I'm done. That's it. And I've explained this because I know how I will work. I will shut down, not because I don't know what I want to keep talking about, but I'm perceiving also the embodied brain of the other person, because when you have the adaptive child part, there is a defense posture. So you can differentiate and self-regulate, but that doesn't mean you're going to want to continue to have the interaction. However, as this amazing neuroscientist presented, community is what has people continue to use our embodied brain's capacity, the bright sides of neuroplasticity. And so with the journal prompts and mindset practices, this is if you're capable of self-regulating. If you want to be validated when you're waking up in the middle of the night, there's a Zen master who says laundry when he cries. And that's why we don't have the consistent capacity to be in the enlightenment frequency or soul age group. So he doesn't know how to be blissed out. He also hasn't gotten informed on restored embodiment or what good resilience is. And so when someone has not the capacity to notice, are you speaking from your perception of what world is? Because I know I am too. It's called Maria Feels Good. I feel good. Na, 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 na. I knew that I would. And that's not because I'm faking it. It's because I've been using my prefrontal cortex, my ventral vagal state, and myself since I was whenever I can remember to be in stillness, and I keep forgetting to breathe. But the point is somatic empathy right here. However, okay, so repairing ruptures, it's good. Life will always send you unknowns, unexpecteds, unwanteds. If you believe in God, it's not a test. If you believe in science, yeah, luck, whatever, the bell curve. So this is the part of where it makes me very laughable. I laugh when I think of people needing to define it as a certainty. But then again, they've been presented that that's what confidence looks like. Instead, that's fake confidence. What true confidence looks like of any expert is humility with the let's have fun with it. And this is the part. What motivates you to become the more eloquent, funny bone? Okay, so for example, for me, it's being able to continue having intellectually and also spiritual conversations. Okay, so number one, the journal prompts mindset practices. Check out PayHip, check out Substack, and here's where moving to somatic empathy heals, because we have a nervous system and we have learned to co-regulate. If co-regulation is dangerous, that's the only reason someone's going to think AI is better than a therapist. Now, having bad experiences with therapists, we all know there are people that have them, like people having bad experiences with spiritual ones. The bad experience means you got a bad one, which means they're ineffective, which means they don't care about you. But that's not because they're evil in a way of needing us to dress them up. Those who lack self-regulation skills lack the capacity to stay grounded, connected, and therefore present. And therefore they're not alive. At best, they're pseudo-alive with their effective realism, with their charges, with their self-righteous energy, with their complete narrative coming out of their mouth. And in the entirety of that time, that is, you lack professional responsibility. So it doesn't matter if it's a business, a government, a doctor's office, it doesn't matter where it's at. When I meet those who lack self-regulation skills, it will be clear, besides their insensitivity, their arrogant assholishness, and nobody's going to think, let me engage with you. In my case, I'm 4'9", but even if I were 6 feet, the fact is you got a person who's biologically rude in that moment, and as Stephen Porges points out, you are not talking to them. They're being led by their first 3 years of life pretty much, and whatever maladaptive patterns of behavior they learned to use from their 0-8, and they are not choosing adaptive strategies that Dr. Daniel Fox or Siegel or anybody else would give them. No, in fact, they're not even choosing to go to therapy. They're going to go to Boca Raton and become groupies of each other, or flat earthers for that matter. So when you see fear-based leadership, you know who they have. And when you meet epistemically lazy people who are also lacking the capacity to notice that words and knowledge is a bunch of stories and books and a lot more, and science is facts, we don't have to believe in it. Okay, so when someone gets defensive and wants to protect the story, I'm going to bring in spiritual stuff for a minute. Someone's like, we need to prove spirituality. You have an adaptive child part. It's easy to be right. No, you just want to be right because your half brain is just making this really, you're in cognitive dissonance and structural dissociation. Like having a 3-year-old, but it's a grown-ass human being who's read some books, some of this, some of that, and now they're defensive because their ego just got touched in a way of, how dare you? They need to be reparented by a good therapist. Once they're ready to be functional adults, then they're going to have conditions. If they're ready to be functional inner child adults, we have no conditions. You don't outgrow people. So 3D, 4D, they're bountiful out there. I know plenty of them. I hang out with everyone. I don't need to cut cords. We're going to talk about Archangel Michael in a minute. Okay, so the cutting cords is where you have a person who thinks there's energy vampires. As you say to them, listen, there's not. As a mystic channeler downloader, Akashic record reader, I have been to the different planes. So yes, there's lower frequencies, but there's not vampires. Meaning, and what you're describing sounds more like you don't have healthy boundaries. So you're porous. And that's why you feel that someone's, because this is where revved up. And so if someone were taking their healing seriously, they will be at a therapist's office, which this person is, but there's no point in me continuing to talk because they're with a good therapist. I just said there's no energy vampires. What you're describing means you're incapable at this moment of time to maintain a steady self-image, to stay grounded in your connected body and present, and therefore to self-regulate and differentiate. And then with them, me and we, thank you, Dr. Daniel Siegel, for the words, I will be okay because I'm not needing to use my effective realism, use any of my charges, use any of what's coming my way, like someone getting off of your panic attacks, discussing. I can disregard it all because I know that it's not an energy vampire. It's me as a human co-regulating with that which isn't my biosphere. In other words, that's from Terry Real. So these are not confusing if you are an embodied self that is steady. If, on the other hand, I'm going to pause you for a minute and just FYI, as I was saying, I come from Maria's perception and everything is easy because I didn't lose myself. And I'm smiling and laughing because anytime I'm hearing somebody who doesn't seem to have a good relationship with themselves, I'm like, be yourself the smart way, stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable. Take yourself to get whole, because you're going to have a lot more fun if you participate with all of you. And I'm going to have a lot more fun. And I really want our playground to be fun, because in the meantime, we know what happens where Gargamel's castle is. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, it's not. So, number 2 on our list, okay? I want to take a moment to talk about that, which is this AI thing. Because on this subreddit group of all people who want AI as their therapists, I said, while AI is great to talk to, it cannot co-regulate with you. It has no nervous system, which means yours is left without the co-regulation and somatic empathy, that which is required for healing to take place. Your body, brain, mind, self-harmony, and wholeness need more than someone to talk to. This makes the AI sessions incomplete from a healing standpoint. There are many good therapists out there. You just need to find the right one. If you're up to searching again at some point in your journey, I can share more. And then I added a good therapist, EMDR, child parts work, and somatics or sensory motor. They make a good difference in the long run. Wishing you the best. So the capacity to anchor your ventral energy is for those who can be self-regulating and emotion intelligent. And while some think that explaining is unnecessary, I find that not everybody understands that these words are essential, because while I may fuck it up and confuse it, I'm trying to let you all in on a fun fact. You don't reprogram your subconscious. You don't need to be creating some type of contract. You want to be the master of your mind. That way you're sifting sensations, images, feelings, thoughts. And like myself, you know when you're coming up. And then when it's not you, you don't flip out because you don't have a lid that goes, alert, alert, flip, flip. And I've had people flip out. And that wasn't something scary because it was sad. No, and I'm not laughing because it's funny. What makes me happy is because of all my attachment trauma education, I was able to, and that was, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, what? I didn't do anything special. Those were the words. I was like, I'm good. It's great. I was self-regulating. Why did that mean something to me? Because Rainbow, baby child, needed someone to say, you're not a monster. There's no demon. And that's pretty much it. So, somatic empaths. Here we go. Let me talk about that one. So while we can welcome people with their maladaptive patterns, and that means their mannerisms, that doesn't mean that seeing them continue to fail because they were set up to fail is something we'll think of, oh wow, at least I got to build a secure connection. It's great I did, but I get to continue to see someone who I love not do the best by them. Why? Well, they're surrounded by ignorance. They themselves are vulnerable to those people. And so this is the part of why it's important to remember that subjective experience. You don't go insulting people, but when it does come time to stand up for that which is right, it's called humanity. And it's also called recognizing everyone who doubts humanity and ever will, they have some rupture that they haven't healed. And they're actually saying, we doubt ourselves. I don't doubt myself, and I don't doubt you. And I don't doubt any of those who are humans, because smart, brilliant therapists and experts all gave me the, hey God, listen, they're all healable, but can we stay? Because, even if we're spiritual, I was like, oh, we're not needed. And then I was like, but we can stay. And that's how it works inside of you. You're like, yay, everybody can. Oh, they don't want therapy. That's right. Okay, so here's where, let me read. Stephen Hayes, PhD, running from your emotions or grasping on positive ones and getting entangled with your thoughts are the two strongest ways we know of to eliminate openness, trying new things, and being able to learn by trial and error. And so people who are comfortable with dysregulation, their nervous system predicts the same and seeks that which is intensity in a way that is push-pull, because that's all they know. And so they're in pseudo aliveness, and when they don't take seriously going on a journey, it's because they're actively minimizing not only the role of a therapist, but they're actively using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bad experiences and then making generalized statements, which is where black and white thinking is. And there's your emotional, immature collective. And it's also called generalized thinking. So if I did that with every single bit of something that went wrong with me in my life, had some bad osteopaths, they're not all bad, okay? The point is that this community of good therapists is needed, and they're smart. Neuroscience, whatever all their titles. I'm just saying, like, some people think, well, any vehicle is a good vehicle. And I've been told that. And I'm like, great, I get it. I get it that we can heal each other by being able to heal the relational. I can't actually make you understand, though, when you have a weak sense of self and you're enmeshing and your mood and your personality and all of you is changing in front of my face because you don't believe good therapy is needed. And in the meantime, I'm not going to be able to convince you, no matter how eloquent I may be, because the whole point of someone not wanting it is because they're afraid of vulnerability. And so it's actually something you can't make a person do. Go to therapy. You can understand those who just say, for or bad, let me go to AI. They're more inclined than not to want that, not because it's the smart thing, because it's the comfortable thing. And that's the part of where personal responsibility, but I will hold, of course, professionals, but you know how many are unhealed of all fields? And so the reality is we want to just create conversations and allow people to discern. So when you meet fear-based anything, so unhealed people, not only will they tell you that not all are healable, I'm talking about the personal growth, spiritual growth. So from the angle of you being able to become the best version of yourself, everyone is capable and they can do it. Now, if you don't want it, you don't have to, but that's a red flag immediately. So I'm going to know that the people who are denying themselves the opportunity are more comfortable in that which is their comfort zone. But you're not going to convince them. And so you can support people by being their safe haven, secure base. When we were doing our live yesterday in another episode, I was telling you all how when someone says, what's the problem you solve with your journal prompts and mindset practices? I say, I'm not solving a problem. I'm giving people who are working with their mind tools to add to their well-being because they understand the value of them. And then they also join a community of people who are mystic, spiritual, and mindful. And that's here on YouTube and Spotify and Substack and TikTok. I'm there too at times for the lives and everywhere and anywhere, really. But the point is, the people that I spot continuing to be vulnerable are the same ones who continue not to use journal prompts or mindset practices effectively, let alone their spiritual journey or their professional journey. And so that's 1, 2. I think we need to get to Archangel Michael for a minute. Okay, so journal prompts and mindset practices, they work for some of us. They can work for everyone. But if people don't want to become their restored embodiment and say self-aware, accountable, and regulate, you can't make them. Somatic empathy heals because you need another nervous system to be able to perceive what it's like to co-regulate and therefore to be in a safe haven, secure base presence and therefore to welcome ease, but then to continuously expand your window of tolerance to want to welcome when it begins to not be comfortable with ease because it thinks it has to work to be loved, because it wants to poke, because neutrality is boring or basically it's dangerous and I think you're hiding something. Okay, so alone requires a person who will be a whole self, not use inner critic, outer critic, drinking, drugging, fucking, binge eating, binge whatever, and therefore the motivation to work with all of their bad habits, bring the good habits. And here's where I do believe in the power of an individual to do so. But I also understand the complexity of the embodied brain. And so if we have memory barriers, this is where neuroscientists and neuropsychiatrists and all those big titles, amazing when you learn of how, thanks Dr. Dan Siegel, he has healed a person who wrote a book. I need to find that book, but DID. And there's more that are healing. So whenever I hear anyone who is still criticizing or insulting any of our collective, now while I will make fun of drama kings and drama queens, what I'm saying is when someone wants to say lack of imagination for evil, I think you lack the education. We really need to break down this word, evil, or the sin thing, and then I want to hold accountable all people who still want to use those words as figures of speech, because you might be thinking you're using it as figures of speech. I walk out into the world and hear people talking about people who are more likely than not with DID and or BPD and or narcissism, and they think that they have the same mental capacity. And I'm not saying we want to give anyone a green or red slip or any, no, I'm saying that the capacity to comprehend with your left what is information, knowledge, is if you will choose to understand science's data. And so while they continue to build their data, and then they have people who go against them, because that's where those emotionally immature will validate each other, they think self-esteem comes from the outside. No, it's a third attunement, repair, and rupture. Then, in addition to that, it is remembering that a 0-8-year-old is a codependent and a 0-16-year-old is a child, not a mini adult, and that their nervous system and perception that you will not remember anymore is different. And it's from the brain composition, and that the 11 to 25 is an adolescent brain, and 11 to 28. So when someone has a knee-jerk reaction because they don't like the words, red flag right there. I got a person who thinks and or more that we're going to make humanity weak. Well, humanity never weakens. Explanation is giving it to you from experts. Okay, so expertise, they're humble, they'll give you what it is. We know this, we don't know this. People who are smart are still tuning in, and I only say that because anybody who is actively attracted to a little box, and I've seen, because I watch all the different types of YouTube videos, so what I'm saying is a good team and a bad team versus we have academics and researchers and brilliance going against each other. Don't fall for it. The ones who are smart don't go against their colleagues. They will, in fact, continue to respect them, maybe tease them at best, and know how to handle them way better than I actually would want to handle them myself. But luckily, I'm not in the field. I'm only on the outskirts bringing a lot of the different pieces of information and saying, oh, look, I saw a gap here. Oh, look, I saw one here. So I get to share stories. Okay, so we did the words, journal prompts. We did the somatic empathy. I'm trying to organize again, so bear with me, lovely regular community. I figure that I can share some stories, but also give you some explanation. And I know we talked about AI, which is good, so I think it's time. It's time for our lovely Archangel Michael, who wanted to come through. Okay, thanks for those who have stopped by. Check out PayHip and Substack if you're not going to stick around for some of the mystic stuff. I am going to continue talking a little bit more, but remember, reality, it is socially defined, but the definitions are always embodied. That is, concrete individuals and groups of individuals serve as definers of reality. So while I'll tease 3D, 4D, I know where they come from. And our bodies didn't do anything wrong, nor did our brain. The minds that have a lot of stories and a lot of words are used to shape popular opinion and justify legal action and political policy. And so some people, they like to use words in ways that I don't care about it. I'm just trying to convey a message. I use words wrong actively. I'm not trying to use them right all the time either. But the one thing I can tell you is when someone has shame, blame, fault, revenge, so they still suffer, and so they still have an unsteady self-image, they distort things with the effective realism, with the charges, the biases. I'm not doing that. I'm trying to say for example, feminine, masculine, patriarch, matriarch. The reason they become controversial is because people don't know how to talk with their ventral vagal state, because they're actually defensive about it. I make fun of 3D, 4D, which is where God, okay, let me nudge you because you're continuing to waste the time. And eventually that would have led me to become like those who I notice. And that's not a good or bad thing, but that's the point of what personal growth is and spiritual growth. And then moving beyond something that is a charge that you also know where it comes from your own life. You don't integrate parts of you without knowing what is being healed. So in my case, my adolescent years, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. You better bet your bottom, loser. That's why I know it's her and my teenager, because like I don't need to put up with the bullshit. So I end up becoming a bit rigid myself, and that's in a way that isn't helpful, because while yes, we can look out there in the world and know exactly why we are in a crisis, and it is unnecessary completely, completely. But you better bet I know one, cosmic karmic balancing always balances itself out. God always wins. Two, you don't need to have chaos in order for humanity to come together. Those who think we need a bad team and a good team in order to rise, you see that this right here, that motivation, it's called they need the external to come and nudge them. There's your adrenaline and low dopamine hit, and there's your person who's being motivated by nothing more than the sympathetic in a way that is unnecessary. What I get to share with you is when you're blissed out in your body and with your ventral vagal state, and you're in a flow state, and you stand, and the more you do it, which is why the validating your own charges will not do you justice. You will not live the most amazing life you can, because you're not going to keep strengthening the resilience. And so it's like let me think how to compare the feelings that I'm, even just as I speak to you, perceive. It's your energy body. Not only does it expand, but it's like water, and it's like filling the space. But then it's like a very warm summer's day for those of you who like warmth. Or how about an embrace? If you like, well, unconditional love and being at ease inside, you're gonna know what I'm talking about. It's bliss. It's it's a protective veil that it comes from here. There's actually no comparison, which is why people who are small energy and don't notice that the intensity of adrenaline or dopamine is not actually bliss. So yeah, it's I'm playing with words right now, but what I need to be trying to point out to you is that you can be in the flow state. And so it's the selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, richness, and you're anchored in, and you're just continuing to overflow with what is your human makeup. And obviously the source around us, Akash, yeah, that's actually, but I'm just going to say it comes from here. If you want to hear about me, I don't know if I mentioned it, I'm the co-author of the book, The Ways to God, and you can learn about how God is discerning quantumist love. And I consistently talk to him, and he comes through. So I just haven't lately done any of our channeled guidance, food for thought. We'll pick that up at some point. In the meantime, remember, please, to, if you want, the less connected you are to what is objectively true, the less likely you are able to make decisions that will benefit your life, the life of your family, and even civilization itself. Those who bring with them their distortion and their charges are picking what they want to believe in. No, they're cherishable beliefs. They say it's all true. Versus, as Sam Harris points out, grounded in reality, people know it might be true, it might not. Okay, so when I look at spiritual stories, I can see every one of them allocated appropriately for the time, what we had as knowledge, what we didn't, for the location. There is every bit of sense. This is not making fake the stories, which is what people get defensive about. That's why the left and right, if they're not working with both, they're going to say, how dare you? And that is a reaction. And that's a person who has a small-minded approach. They are epistemically lazy, but above all, they're also taking it personally. You're not going to change the mind of that adaptive child part who's protecting not only a core wound and or a core thought. You can't change me. Okay, so here's our 3-year-old. And so this is where you don't need to accept it as good or bad. You just understand emotionally immature people have a choice to the bigger and smaller degree. So it's really just, you're going to ground yourself, stay connected, and stay pleasant, not because you have to appease them, because there's no conversing. Others will think that you can make an impact. I'm trying to say you won't make an impact if they are in that level of demeanor, because you know what else is happening while you're interacting? They're talking over you. They're completely rejecting what began to come out of your mouth. So the only way you can maybe wiggle your way in, and you've heard about it, is by welcoming what's happening, staying calm, which is where the self-regulation and the capacity to be aware of why would I want to try to, so in my case with the AI thing, it's because it doesn't replace a good therapist. You don't learn self-regulation. And you know what happens with therapists? Some people don't even want the self-regulation from the therapist because that's how scary it is to be vulnerable within. That's the whole point. So a person will have to work with their window tolerance to feeling vulnerable while they're in a room. And when it's an avoidant, it's one way. When it's an ambivalent, it's another. And when it's disorganized, it's another. So people who take themselves seriously will go to the right therapist because they're going to get a whole one who's healed. not one who twists anything, and not a shaman who says, come to me, I'll save you 10 years of therapy, because the maladaptive patterns of behavior don't get fixed. Shaman who thinks that the shamans are better than the good therapist, and you're really creating an unnecessary equation. So people who are going to find objective truths and know how to communicate them will also know whether I'm effective or not, whether I fuck up the words or not. You might hear me, you might not. And if you're not, I'm not going to make you. And while, yes, thanks Neil deGrasse, he says skeptics, the ones who seek with uncertainty, which, by the way, that's seek with curiosity. It's better, because if you're seeking because you're unsure, you're defensive. Makes it tiresome for you to read, tiresome for you to think, tired, because that's exactly why it's not your health. So you're reading to learn, you're having curiosity. This is the epistemically curious people. They read because they're enjoying learning more. And that's how you also are going to use the neuroplasticity. So people who think AI is going to make brains dumb, I loved hearing this neuroscientist like, no, he knows how our brain works. I do too. So people who have doubts of our species, they don't understand what biology is, the cellular process. They don't think we're like the bees and the ants because they continue to think we're yucky. That's the part of where the feminine, the body, there's always evolution at hand. So the people who reject it, it's because they prefer story to that which is the truth, not to that which is data. Thanks, Thomas Campbell. As he points out, the truth is not fragile. It will always come to the top, but it takes time. As I've read to you his quote before, let me, in case you're new, you don't know it. And he's a science man who proves that love wins. In my words, he has different words, but it will always float to the top. But sometimes it takes time to get past beliefs, and it takes a huge paradigm shift to get there. But eventually it will get there. And when it does, he says, and the scientists say, yes, this is correct. Now he talks about our world as a virtual reality, and that love is the point. Low entropy is the point, and lowering entropy is obviously healthy. Creating, sharing, that is what is positive. And grabbing, he says, selfish is high entropy, and that's negative, taking. And here's where I know from the spiritual perspective, but I also found it cute as he's explaining, Reiki is just one way you're going to be explaining yourself something, and the person who was interviewing them was like, but Reiki is real, and they begin to talk about it, and I'm like, I understood both sides of the coin. And what I'm going to share is that I'm able to be aware of what the times are bringing to us, a blending of science and spirituality in ways that go beyond what our ancestors had already at the time of them. So, excuse me, you get confusing science spirituality. This is a random human being, as I was bringing it all in. There's your lefty. They don't work with a righty, and they basically think their subjective feelings and opinions are truer than yours. Well, I'm like, oh, look, A and B, they touched each other. That's how the left, they no, they don't. You're a hypocrite, Maria. And that's some people, they really get into that one. But my point is, when we finish the conversation, because by the third time you got a kid in the room, it's like, okay, let me hear what you got, because I'm curious now. So when they told me, I'm like, yep, that's where we're headed. It's cool, though, because we're all going to be compassionate. That's our future, our North Star. Everyone is self-sovereign. Isn't that amazing? So people think we're going to be selfish. They don't understand what self-sovereign means. All you need is love and healthy fear. All you need is love and healthy fear and nervous system sovereignty. So there's nothing you can't do that can't be done. You always hope that you can make a difference in someone's life. And the nice thing about being a safe haven, secure base for people is that if they are doing right by them, then you're going to see them. You're going to get to meet the 3-year-old. Aren't you excited? I'm excited to meet every one of the 3-year-olds out there. And so with that being said, thanks for stopping by. For those who don't want to hear about Archangel Michael, and check out Pay Hip and Substack again, and share the word with all the people that you know would enjoy this type of format, because I tried really hard to organize it so I could be 1, 2, 3 and to then also interact with stories. Okay, so Archangel Michael, if you don't know, I can't show you the book I'm reading from, and there's a whole story behind it. The person doesn't want to be associated to any of that which is theirs. Decentralizing in the self and religious experiences, as Patrick McNamara points out, when it goes bad, they flip a switch. Now, when it goes bad in the way of them thinking they're the ones who know all of the truths, it's hilarious. But in either or, one will basically, it's all demon stuff. And that's basically what happens. I can't show you exactly what, but I'm not going to read all of it anyway, so don't worry. But since he came through, I just want to give him yes, Archangel, don't worry. Okay, and there's a reason for why Archangel Michael. Okay, so you don't need to be cutting no cords. You don't cut cords. When people are in your energy sphere, I've had them. I laughed about it. Are you grabbing shit? Okay, whatever you're grabbing, it's going to be through your own brain. But hey, obviously you think you're grabbing something special. I feel so honored that you're grabbing information from me. Okay, that's how a 5D mystic in the Enlightenment Soul Age group, who's empowered and who is grounded in logic. You may be right. I may be crazy. But it might just be a lunatic you're looking for. No, actually, I love being explained things. So point is, the cutting cords person who feels overwhelmed has porous boundaries. They need to heal, become a functional adult. Then maybe once you're a functional child adult, you're going to have fun with us because we don't hold grudges. We just get into like, okay, I need to leave now, because that's how easy it is for you to understand that you're not wanted by those who don't actually believe you. The unfortunate thing is that if someone is suffering to the extent of suffering, they might find you uncomfortable. Okay, so the humans whom he enlists and works with are called light workers. And we're advanced light workers and future light workers. And I'm not joking. I just saw a number of announcements. I knew after my first rodeo, I was like, you know what? I think I've done this before. But since I've been around for eons, I was like, maybe I mean before in some other lifetime. Then at a certain point, I think it was by the third point, I was like, nope, I meant that I've done this before, that I knew what I was going to get. And okay, wow, this is amazing. So we're advanced light workers and future beings. And this is not minimizing any of that, which is our spiritual life. It is actively allowing anyone to know what humility looks like on a screen. And hey, Loki, what's up? High five, Loki, Buddha, come on over, everyone. So maybe once we have a Substack paid community, at some point I'll actually sit with them, because there is a form of meditative state that I can get into. I just don't want to. I haven't done that yet. Oh, they might insist. We'll find out. Okay, so he helps with, in case you do want to connect with Archangel Michael. I'm going to get serious again because it is serious. Okay, so Archangel Michael, his name means he who is like God. He who looks like God. And obviously this is exactly why people are like, but none of you are God and stuff like that. And so let's just remember to allow everyone to be what they want to be with words. I like to be flexible with words. Archangel Michael is extremely tall and handsome. So is God tall and handsome? Anyways, I'm joking. When I've been asked, that was in our authors, we got together. You remember I told you about that one. We got to chit chat and I was asked what God feels like, if I remember correctly. And I said, he's a protective figure. And he's always protected me. The feminine energy it's like Gaia. I'm thinking water and green, kind of like when you're watching Moana, if you have seen it, the island, and not the image, but now when it comes to Akash, cosmos, high five, man. Yeah, that one's a very interesting energy. When I had my LBLT, that was amazing. So Michael helps with commitment and dedication to one's beliefs, courage, direction, energy and vitality, life's purpose, all aspects of your life's purpose, motivation, protection, space clearing, spirit releasement, worthiness, and increased self-esteem. Okay, so all of these things right here, get nervous system sovereign. You will not have your purpose being challenged because you will have a steady self. And as you gain it, it won't be, I know everything. It will be, I am uncertain. I have 50-50 shot. But as long as dark matter and dark energy don't implode, and as long as we have emotionally intelligent people, and we do everywhere, we will be, hopefully tomorrow we come back. And we keep on hoping. I saw my future husband, and don't worry, we leave Earth very peacefully. Nothing bad has happened. So, meantime, though, let's not disregard recycling and the environment and coming together to fix the economic system, the political systems, all of it. Don't worry, it'll be looking fabulous. And 3D, 4D, by the way, they already have their conspiracies, all of it. And they also have stories for us. We'll find out what happens. Not right now, though. We're still in the middle of it. But the worst has passed. And that is also something I noticed. I was like, oh, I know where we're at. Though 4D still speaking like it's going to be the big light. There have been many big lights. And I am amazed at the fact that I knew this when I began. Anyways, so again, you don't need to reprogram your subconscious. You become yourself, and then you're going to achieve that highest timeline. You will, with spirituality or personality, move into wellness, and so your well-being is because of the self-regulation skills. Journal prompts, mindset practices. For the spiritual aspects and tools, I do have plans, just not yet. I will keep you posted on it. And so I do know that there's a lot of nice energies around. So the other, Archangel Michael, no need to cut cords. That was the most important part. Those who still feel they need to cut cords, like the person I talked to when I said no energy vampire, I said, keep doing your therapy. Once you have a steady self, we can come and talk again. Because that's the part of where I can't help someone understand something they don't embody it. And by knowing what a steady self feels like, I know when I see one that doesn't have it, and the explanations are clear from all of those who I do keep learning from, the smart therapists. And so it's not a shaman, it's not a mindfulness class, it's not your yoga class, it's go get yourself to reparent, to become grown up, and to have fun eventually with it. You don't have to. Some don't want to forgive. That's because they didn't get given the capacity to live a childhood. And so I can understand the explanation of why they won't. I hope that they can forgive. I know how to forgive, but I have a different story than them. So I'm not going to tell them they have to do anything. Like they're not going to tell us we have to not forgive. So Brigitte is the other name. That's why Michael's like, I want to talk. Remember, you saw, because this came about a bit ago. Okay, let's hope my video is working well, because you know my computer's been doing, unfortunately, stuff. Okay, so here's Brigitte. Bright one, bright arrow. And she's a Celtic goddess. She also is the female equivalent of Archangel Michael. And she's fiercely protective and loving, and clearing those who call upon her. Okay, so whoever calls upon her, she's fiercely loving and protecting. Now, that is, we want a balanced feminine energy. So femininity and no apologies, there's some people who believe in that. I'm going to say that I differ in that subjective experience and people's feelings do matter. That's because that's how I would want to be welcomed. So see, I can admit subjective experience, what would I want? Even if you and I are debating whatever, I would still look forward to an apology if we're having some type of interaction. Doesn't mean you're apologizing to me in a way of I'm so sorry if you didn't do anything wrong, but that acknowledgement. And so here's where some people use words differently. So they might say no apology, but they mean I won't say I'm sorry in the sense of I'm sorry if I'm not wrong. And I'm saying that to me, the apology word means that we can meet each other and have compassion. And that's why it's important to not assume based on words what we're saying to each other, because we all have also different ways to use words independently from people saying, but the dictionary, and they don't like it. Like, you know what? Okay, you use your brain that way. I don't. That's it. So if you refuse to welcome differences because you're just going to put your foot down, this is the moment of some become more flexible as time moves forth with their age, not actually arrogant assholes. Those who become arrogant assholes, well, it is what it is. But she has the capacity to help with courage, especially women, life purpose, and finding direction, protection, warmth in relationships, body, and environment. Okay, protection. Let's talk about that one. And we do have our lovely Buddha. Buddha, balance and moderation in all things, joy, peace, inner world, inner and outer world, and spiritual growth and understanding. And so, thank you, Buddha. The enlightened or awakened one. We're still waiting for the future Buddha. I know I am. I should check out if there's any announcements around. But the part about protection, if someone feels they need protection, okay, so this is where I'm going to say people who have this idea don't realize just how much rumination will take place with it. While what we really need physical protection from, we're always under the sky. And so the part about using any of the spiritual, lovely, they're not figures for those of us who channel and download, but we can use that word. I've been taught to be able to use that word when I'm doing personal growth mentorship and or spiritual. But yeah, they're not figures. They're with us. My point is, though, if you think you need protection and you're asking Brigitte, the goddess of no apologies, for protection, this is a fiery defense stance of a sympathetic, which is where you're not going to continue growing. Now we have a spiritual bypasser in the room. So you're going to still think you need to cut cords. And when someone's in your energy sphere, you're not going to notice that if you're overwhelmed by it, that means you have yet to embody a nervous system that you can regulate in your ventral vagal state. So I have an explanation how to move to your wholeness, spirituality, life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self. So the understanding of those who are in the spirituality community, they will take note and care to ensure that they bring forth words of wisdom to the best of their ability. And again, protection, not a word that I would say you need of in your thoughts and in your dream state and in your interrelationship state. You need it physically, and we have and need to work on fixing that which gives us physical safety, right? So we need tangible protection. And having the idea I have a no apologies fierce woman who's going to protect me no matter what, that's the very destabilized. So when Terry Real gives us his lovely graph of what healthy boundaries and unhealthy are, we have two sides of a coin. Boundaries shut off and boundaryless, meaning porous. I've seen this I've made fun of last year, it was, or the year before. On the bottom, what do you got? We got, I forget what was the explanation. But the bottom is the, I forgot it. The word, this happens to me. At a certain point, I lose the words for what. But the squirrel from Cusco land, the squirrel from Cusco land is up here because it becomes vindictive and irate and justifies the mannerism, but they lose it. The bottom is desperate and manipulative. That's the word. Be deluded. This is a human being, so it's like a person who has no self-esteem whatsoever. The top, though, will become the squirrel. I tried to do something nice for you, and you didn't actually appreciate it, and now I'm gonna get my payback. And so porelessness, boundaryless like that, that's not healthy. Over here we have, I'm going to shut myself in a room, avoidant, and cry myself to sleep, and then I'm going to think that nobody wants me and stuff like that. And on the top it's, haha, I'm doing better without you. And this is the gist of it. And so when I see these behaviors still out there in the world and they want to talk to me about spirituality or any conversation, and I don't notice their personal responsibility in the forefront, I know what I have. I have a person who's disregarded the opportunity to get themselves healed, but I also know we didn't have all these words in our mouth until recently. And then I also remember what I learned from all those teenagers way back when, and from grown-ass human beings. There's good grown-ups, and then there's the bad ones. And the good ones, they stay curious, open, accepting, loving, and understand how knowledge is built, and they like new information and old. But when the old proves itself to be wrong, we don't act stubborn, flat earthers, and really go check the corner, but wow, you could use your math for something else. Okay, so the point that I'm trying to make is if someone wants to be a groupie and be different, or say with all conviction, go for it. But the one who is rigid and chaotic is over here. The ones who are not are over here, understanding what's going on. And so just because I can explain to you how to work with your embodied brain, and then also, like I was saying, for spiritual ones, they're not just figures, but we can accept that the scientists want to explain to us how our memory works, how the sphere works, and then I think of these stories that are not just stories, history, right? There's figures that existed. I don't remember all the regurgitation of material, but my point is that's why I feel it's very sad that they're not being honored the way they could be, because the spiritual bypassers, they don't honor them as actual people. They honor them making it like a fantasy movie. And when I'm watching movies, people will think of mysticism, spirituality with these movies, and it's like, that's not how it works. Or another example, Kundalini awakening. I saw it explained the right way by a doctor. I was like, oh my God, wow, that's amazing. It's basically like when Peter Levine explains, when one trauma piece moves, the rest will slowly come, because your body's smart, your biology is going to get this stuff out. But if you suppress it, and so here's why the two, science and spirituality, go together, but a person needs to be responsible of their embodied brain when they don't believe in the science and then they don't want to do right by them. That's sad, but I digress, and I've kept you long enough. Thank you for stopping by. Check out PayHip for journal prompts, mindset practices. Check out Substack and subscribe, and that way we can start building a community, and also here at YouTube. Do come back tomorrow if you want for the live in Italian, but I might also have some other lives. We'll find out. And TikTok, if I didn't mention that. So thanks for stopping by, and I look forward to being back again with you. Have a good one.